Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack. Hey guys and gals, thanks for tuning in. We are getting lots of positive feedback from the podcast. I'm glad you're all enjoying it. This episode just comes with a bit of a proviso. For the first couple of minutes, Jeff's audio is a bit distorted at some points. We've just had some technical problems where we're figuring out how the best way to do this is. So yeah, as with anything, there's some teething problems, but the audio clears up after a couple of minutes, so it's better. He does sound as though he's in a submarine though, but either way, it's a hell of a podcast.
So let's dive right in.
I'm not going to name any names, but I just got invited to like someone's page, like side business on Facebook, and I'm more than happy to support people's local endeavors, because I know I invite people to like Ekko and Sidetrack all the time, right?
Yep.
But I get invites to like things from people that I met 5 years ago, and I met them once.
In passing, yeah. But
in passing.
Surely that's just got to be a blanket invite they do. It's not like they're targeting you as a...
You know what? Jonathan is going to like my sequin business. He's definitely going to invest in this or buy some of my
beads
wares. I think it's like... Yeah, it must be a blanket advice. It must be. But, you know, I haven't thought about some of those people for so long, and then an invite comes up and I'm like, what the fuck? Who's this? What's happening? But it's weird how you meet people and have these interactions with them. You know, often it's, for us, it was at nightclubs. You know, you might meet a girl or you might meet a guy that you really get along with or whatever. And you're like, oh, I've got a Facebook request from them. Or you add them on Facebook a couple of days later, and then you might not ever see that person again, but you're friends on Facebook. And you're like, it's like kind of like your pseudo friends. Like, I'm not calling that person if I've got a problem.
There aren't many people you do call though. It's that number is even smaller than your Facebook friends. It's smaller than your MySpace top 8 in some cases.
That's true. Although I feel, I don't know, I think I've had phone calls with some people who I didn't think I was on a call-to-call basis with.
Man, I've really
appreciated it.
Yeah, I've had a great phone call recently with Scott Meller. Shout out to Scott Meller. We did an interview with him a while ago, but we'll probably put that one up. Yeah, we just started talking about design and stuff, and then all of a sudden we're talking about creativity, and you know, he's giving me recommendations, I'm giving him recommendations. It was like he was at his house. We lasted 40 minutes. Then something happened. He called me back. He started moving around. Then he transferred me to his car. We spoke in his car for 15 minutes. Then he got out. Oof. Then we spoke again. Then I spoke to his girlfriend, who I also know. So it was just this like tiered discussion of awesomeness. It made me feel really positive. It was, it was really, what's the word? Not heartfelt, but it was like inspiring. He's an inspiring guy. It was an inspiring conversation.
I think long-form conversations where you're actually delving into something, whether it's the mindset about something or whether it's someone's emotional state or something like that, are very inspiring, or at least they kind of fill this abscess in yourself that maybe we're not so much aware that we have.
An abscess?
Like even... Yeah, like a
an
hole, like
open
a festering,
wound?
an open wound. Like, you know, what's a good example? When you're hungover and lying in bed, you're like, fuck, I don't want to see anyone or do anything. I just want to, and then someone's like, man, let's go have lunch. Or like, we're going to meet up with like 5 people or something like that. Maybe even going to have more beers, and you're like, I don't really want to. I don't really want to spend time around people. I just want to watch 3 movies, that kind of thing. And then you go do the thing, you go and have lunch or whatever, and it fills you up. It's like, oh no, this is what I needed. what I
Yeah.
needed was to be around people and have these conversations and laugh and that type of stuff.
Totally, man. I miss that, like being hungover with people where everything's funny and you
man.
get like that, like everything's funny. Even the toughest things are easier because everyone's doing it. There's lots of laughter and in some cases, the idea of like more beers or like what's next, the party kind of continues in its own little form.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done that and had that like that spark of energy, that like, oh, what's happening? And yeah, I like that.
I'm thinking the thing that pops into my mind is going to like after we played Fabric and being hungover and I've slept for like 3 hours. And do you remember? So we played Fabric in September.
Yeah.
In September last year, and a few of our friends came down, and afterwards we all went and got some food
From that sandwich bar around the corner, from that Bangin Sandwich Bar.
Big up the sandwich bar that's across the road from Subway. If you ever go to Fabric, go to the sandwich
You
bar.
probably line up outside the front of it as you go in.
Yeah.
And you may not feel like
Yeah.
a sandwich on the way out, but even if you don't, grab one, get the man and wife team to toast you up. He has a wide selection of great sandwich meats, cheeses, all sorts of things. Get him to toast you one up, or grab it fresh and toast it yourself when you do feel like a sandwich. Support local business. I wish we could give him a shout out.
So we basically went there, and we were laughing, and our friend Byron went over to get Subway because he felt like Subway instead of these sandwiches.
That was the second time we did that.
Was it?
Yeah, that was like the year before when we went as punters. The last year we were with Jake and Charlie, and remember Jake was laying like hell low,
Oh, that's right.
and we told them about how
that's right.
how Byron had got the Subway and besmirched
That's
the good name.
The second time we've been to the sandwich.
It's a big tune of a sandwich shop, I'll tell you that.
So,
much.
but yeah, well, that's right. We're laughing with Jake and Charlie and like having fun, and then we go back to the hotel and sleep for like 3 hours, and we've got to wake up to get a train because we're playing in Amsterdam at Liquidity Family Day. So it's like we'd been partying, and then we're laughing, and then we wake up, and then me and you hungover, making it from Farringdon to King's Cross, which isn't actually that long, but then like being on the Eurostar. I think that was the first time we'd been on the Eurostar,
Maybe, I don't know.
and like just laughing and fucking
It was an adventure and it was fun, and we were both.
laughing at people that were like pushing in the line.
And that was when we started identifying people that were definitely aliens as well. You look at this guy.
yeah.
He is definitely from another planet.
Yeah, it's like this scene in Men in Black where they're revealing who are aliens and who aren't aliens.
Swear, you see some people and you're like, that's not even a good disguise, bro.
Yeah, that's right. You're like, he's got a cheap disguise. He didn't spend enough money on his suit.
He barely did it. It doesn't even look like he's wearing a good skin bag. He's like,
It's like someone that goes to a fancy dress party, but comes up with their outfit like 5 minutes before leaving.
yeah, it's like this guy's come to Earth to do some research, or to hang out. He's just-
Come on, man. Try harder.
Lift.
So you're talking about having a conversation with Scott and having a long form conversation, and how that kind of filled you up or inspired you. How has your spirit been lately, in general?
Spirit has been on a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest, man. Some days I'm like super positive, and then like there have been some outside factors that have influenced it. But like today, I just felt very low. And rather than trying to talk to someone, because it's me reasoning with myself, I guess, as sometimes it is with your emotions.
Do you feel comfortable kind of just briefly saying like why you're feeling this?
No, it doesn't. You don't really need to. We don't need a full backstory, but just so like sometimes you might talk to someone else. Sometimes I might talk to you or a few other friends. But so today, what I experimented actually with was speaking to myself out loud, as almost having a conversation with myself, and not just saying the part of me, but also playing the part of the respondent. So like I say one thing and then like maybe I say more, but then I'm like, when my brain comes up with a response or the answer, I respond like that as well. And it basically just helps like kick the can of the conversation down the road. So you can have some pretty good realizations around it. And you like say stuff, you're like, man, I wouldn't have come up with that if I had just thought to myself. So yeah, a combination of chatting to myself in the car, and then some quality journaling time. And that's not journaling in any sort of structure. Really, it's just writing things down. And like, I've been thinking that writing is a bit like talking, helps me think. And it's really been helping me solidify some ideas, both emotional and creative ideas recently. And yeah, but I've still got a bit of a tightness in my body. And I was listening to some Ramdas.
Did you listen? Were you listening to the
that playlist?
The playlist I sent you. Sick. If anyone wants to listen to it, it's a really, really good playlist on SoundCloud. It's called Ramdas on Fear, Anger, and Love. And Ramdas is he used to be called Richard Alpert. He was a Harvard psychologist and friends with Timothy Leary, like into LSD and that kind of jazz back in the 60s in America. And he basically went down a spiritual route, and Tim Leary went down the LSD route. But he's a really, really interesting guy and has lots of lovely lectures and talks. And I sent one to Jeff because we were kind of speaking about this a couple of days ago. And yeah, so it's called Ramdas on Fear, Anger, and Love, if you want to go check it out.
His insights are like, you don't have to be a Buddhist or something. They're just good insights, and some of them are hard, man. Some are like, but he admits they're hard. That's something I like about any of these kinds of things. Like, it always comes back to that this is a practice. This is not how things are. This is a practice. And do you know why it's a practice? Because we're all trying our very best to do this thing. And like, sorry, you go on. He just says, he talks about this moment where he got angry. And he's like, of course I was angry. These people were in the wrong. But, like he's not this perfect character that portrays himself as a perfect character. He's flawed. He makes little jokes, and like, he's just, there's some great insights to be had from it. And I found that, quite helpful. But as I listened to some of it, I'd press pause in my car and just start talking to myself. And I don't know, maybe other people do it, maybe they don't, but I found it quite helpful in my current state, and it relieved some of the weight that I was feeling about this.
It's being kind to yourself.
Yeah, which is something that I'm really working on. Is that like compassion for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's so good at giving advice to other people. It's quite interesting in these we started doing some online tutoring with music, and I find some of the things I'm telling the students, I'm going back to and doubling down and being like, you need to do this more yourself. So like in every facet of life, you can often give out advice, whether it's emotional advice or instruction or something like that, but you don't often take it yourself. So talking to yourself suddenly is like you're getting the outside perspective. So as if you're hearing advice from someone else, but you're also giving the advice. So it's this you know, it's like saying, if you're feeling nervous about something, it's like verbalizing, come on, buddy, you've got this.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, because if you think that in your head, the come on, you buddy, you've got this is quite low and can get shouted down by the louder, anxious thought that's like, oh, you suck, you can't do it. Or
my only criticism of my technique of talking to myself is that you can turn into a bit of an echo chamber if you don't watch out, as in like whether it's you're unhappy or whether you're kind of repeating yourself. There is a lack of outside perspective, but if you can step away from it enough, you can get a good perspective. And sometimes playing that role internally is but speaking it out loud is maybe what you need.
The bit I particularly love about what Ram Dass says is looking at people like they're trees.
Yes.
So he says you look at a tree that's cracked and broken and you don't think that's a bad tree. But for humans, suddenly that judgment completely changes, and when you see a person that's cracked or a bit broken, you instantly think, oh, that person's a piece of shit, or that person's like gross, or there's judgment that comes in.
Yeah.
So that judgment also, you do that to yourself. I think both of us definitely have that kind of view on ourselves a bit. Trying to think of yourself as a tree, and you're beautiful and you're enough and you're okay, and even with your cracks or faults and that type of thing, it's still okay. You're still like magic by yourself.
You are always enough.
And I think that is that sentence, like you're enough, is it's a sentence a lot of people use.
I think a lot of people might say I'm not enough, but I think you got to think of yourself as more than enough. And if you're doing, like we all are, if you're doing some work on yourself, then you have to believe that you're more than enough, and any work you're doing is building stronger foundations and walls and everything on a building that's already fine. That's great already. You're not destroying the building and then trying to rebuild. You're fortifying what you have and by learning what you're going through. Because because as soon as you start to say that I'm not enough and I need to be more, that means that you're already approaching it from a negative perspective, that you're like, oh, I'm not this. I need to be better at this. It's like, I am improving this. Someone has given me a lot of advice on that language thing, and I think that's really, really helpful.
Well, yeah, the language in which you talk to yourself in is reflected in your actions to other people. You can always tell people who have quite a terrible self-dialogue.
Yeah.
To themselves, just because they're kind of shitty. They can be shitty to other people because in their own mind they're being shitty so much to themselves.
Yeah, man. I recently had an experience where they were like, I was with two people who I previously have thought have really been positive, and then like just maybe it was just that day or something, or maybe I was in a particularly positive state so I could notice the negativity, but I was like, oh, it's like it feels a bit negative in here. Like this is not really a vibe. Oh, that's a weird thing to say. I don't know why you'd pick up on that weird thing. Like,
yeah. And
it was, yeah. Whereas previously I may have been able to dive in and, pile on and be like, yeah, I agree. I was a bit like, I'm just going to be quiet. This doesn't feel like something I want to get involved in.
It's very easy to pile on in those moments. That's the easy route. It's like when someone, and we've all been guilty of it, when someone's paying out on someone else and like bitching about people. It's super easy just to be like, oh yeah, that person does do X or something, even if you might not necessarily not like the person they're talking about or think that. It's something that I'm trying to do. Like, to not engage with those negative thoughts, because often like your reactionary thought is a negative thought, and what we're trying to do is make your reactionary thought a positive one.
Yeah, but there's a... Sorry, go on.
It's just so you're what's the fucking word? What am I trying to... What's the word when you're like... A computer is on its, like... When you start up your computer, it's...
Booting?
No, not booting.
You boot up your...
turning off all the presets, like your starting point.
Your initial...
Yeah, like if you make your...
Initial preset?
Yeah, if you, if you make your, let's say initial preset, I'm sure the word was going to come to me. It's so annoying when you forget words. Your initial preset is positivity rather than your initial preset being negativity.
That's so important.
Your first response is, a positive one rather than a negative one. And I think a lot of people's default is probably just negative.
There's a great saying that says it's basically about interacting with negative vibes, and particularly like trolls on the internet or people that abuse you, or commenters or something. It says, don't wrestle with pigs. They'll have fun and you'll just get dirty.
That's a good saying.
Yeah, it's it's stopped me getting involved in a few little things. I'm like, what? Not even online, like in person as well. You can just be like, I'm just going to leave this one. I'm just going to let this one be. How is sunny London?
It's good. The sun we've actually had a pretty wet week, if you will. But the sun's out today. I have been enjoying my walks in the sun. I went for walks in the rain as well, which have been equally enjoying. I went on my walks the other day. I was like half an hour from home and it started really pissing down. Mm-hmm. And I was wearing a rain jacket, but it's not that protective. And part of me was like, it's wet. You're gonna get cold, and all those. The voice of your mother kind of in your head, like you shouldn't be out in the cold. Not during this time. You should get home. Like, why didn't you bring an umbrella? Those thoughts start to bubble up, and I quelled them and just thought, you haven't stood in the rain for fucking ages. So I kind of looked up, and I felt the raindrops hit my head, and I laughed. Nice. I just laughed gleefully, and in fact took off my rain jacket at one point, and just enjoyed it. And you know what? The rain stopped like 5 minutes later, and I was able to get home without getting more wet. But I had that moment, which I enjoyed.
It's just water.
It is just water, and you can just get dry, and that's actually what my voice said it in my head. It's like, it's just water. I'll be dry. I've got a warm house to go home to. I can have a shower.
And you can enjoy. So you should enjoy it rather than like cowering. And I don't know. It's almost like people see other people cowering in the rain. And like, if you've got no reason to be super dry, then you should just you can just walk in it. You can enjoy it, because it should be something that should be enjoyed. It's a natural phenomenon that you can't do anything about.
It is annoying though when small bits, like small droplets of water hit your face that aren't like big enough. I guess it's kind of when sleet happens, but that is frustrating.
It's the beginning of water torture.
Yeah, I'm figuring out there's like not many things like really annoy me, like really get to me.
Give us a list, Jonathan.
I've worked out one definite one. When you got earplugs in, specifically like Apple earplugs with the cord,
earpods,
and your phones,
headphones.
Headphones. Sorry, and the cord. Your phone's in your pocket and the cord's coming up, and you walk near a door knob, and the cord gets caught around the doorknob, but you don't know it gets caught, so it like violently pulls in your ears. That fucks me off to no end, like to the point where I get like a real feeling of rage spike in me.
Really?
Like it happens when like it was happening. It happened yesterday when I was vacuuming in the kitchen. It got caught around something, and I like, because it's also shock, because it kind of, it kind of hurts. It rips out of your ear. You're listening to music or you're listening to something else, and suddenly you get yanked out of that moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. It's that really fucking shits me.
I feel like we could get around that by buying some wireless
AirPods. Yeah, for sure.
I can send you your Bluetooth ones when I send you some other things, if you'd like.
Oh yeah, sure.
Package. Did you get a package from Mum and Dad?
Yeah, I got the one that had Vita Wheats in it.
Oh, have you? You haven't got
Vegemite.
mine that had some snacks from Japan in it?
No. Is there one incoming with snacks from Japan?
I threw a few. I was holding on to 2 things from Japan.
Green tea Kit Kats?
No. There's little things called Hi Chews, which are like, Chew Hi is like the lemon flavored like drink, alcoholic drink that's just like will annihilate you. Super strong and super delicious. Tastes like Solo, but just alcoholic, and comes in big cans. And then
That
there's
sounds dangerous.
yeah, but there's these little lollies that kind of taste exactly the same, but they're like almost like a refresher. And then I threw in these like strange little corn snack that I bought at the airport, and I really enjoyed them. They're hell salty, hell crunchy. And then I bought another packet, and I was like, I'm going to give these to Jono when he comes. But obviously I've sent them over instead.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to... I love little snack items, though. Basically anything that you could buy and eat on a plane.
You can eat anything on a plane, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Like, Salty Crunch. We talked about it before.
Salty Crunch.
Getting a bit of Salty Crunch is just...
Remember when I bought Dan the burrito coming back from Sydney, and he saved the burrito for takeoff, and he put down... We looked over, and he was holding onto his burrito while everyone got seated around him and everything like that. And then he didn't have anyone sitting next to him. And then as we're taking off, like, we've taxied to the end of the runway, and we start the build up. He just flips down his tray table, places the burrito down, and starts unwrapping it, as though he was waiting for takeoff because that's the best time to eat or something.
That's so ridiculous.
He's such an enigmatic man.
So, do you know why they have to have the tray tables up?
I think it's just got to be that one has to just be a standardized thing, because as soon as they say you don't have to, people pull out their computers, people pull out everything, start putting shit on there, stuff gets lost, things go crazy, things go flying around, and then it just becomes a pain in the ass. If they can standardize some rules, if they just make for 15 minutes of the flight, up and down, just don't do anything except stay in your seats. It just makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
If you're a flight attendant and or pilot and would like to get in touch and tell us the real reason, please do.
That makes sense. I think we can... I think we can say that's the reason.
That's the reason.
That's the reason. Should we get to this week's demo? Yeah, hi. I'd like a plate of big tunes and a serving of piping hot bangers on the side.
Yeah, so we're going to change the format. Previously, we've played other people's music and talked about it. But we think that we should actually play some of our music, specifically music that doesn't make the cut or exists as a work in progress or a demo for a long time. So, yeah, let's get into it. This week's demo, Jonathan, I have dug up off the old studio computer, which is a computer that took us through until about 2015.
No.
Yep.
2000. It had to be
2017,
2017, right?
2011. Oh, maybe 2000. Oh yeah, maybe.
This was our first. This is the computer that we started producing on Jeff's shitty laptop.
Oh no, we had one between.
So we've had 3. We're on our 3rd one now.
Yeah. So we had the laptop, then we got a computer, then we bought the one that's behind me, and then we bought the one that's turned on. So that computer that's behind me served us from 2011 to 2016, 17. The file organization system on that computer is terrible.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can imagine it would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what would be on the desktop. You know how there's usually classic things on our desktops? Like I think I know for sure that there would be
Subfocus Pirate Station Mix 2008.
Yeah.
MP3 file.
Yeah, exactly. And El Hornet's Pendulum Essential Mix.
Yeah, definitely.
Might be on there. Yeah. Sick. Okay, so what is the tune? Tell me about what's the tune title, and I'll see what I can remember about it.
Okay, the tune is called Voyager. And
I definitely titled that.
And let it be pointed out that barely any of the tunes get through the whole process. We always name our tune at the start, but barely any of the tunes get through all the way with just that name. Burgle was called 650 Groove for the longest time.
Shit title.
Alone Without You was called Nightshade.
That's a Jono title. Classically as well, I say that's a Jono title because I tend to title things with a bit more of a fantasy edge, maybe more of a camp edge than Jeff does.
I came across a few that were called like 80s anthem, big tune G minor. Those tunes never get anywhere. You can't call a tune like big tune.
There's a definite tune called Andy C will intro with this on my computer.
And I bet it's had like an hour's work on it, and we're just like
probably
nah, it's a hunk of shit. But Voyager, yeah. What can you remember? Can you tell me anything about this? We'll see if you're right.
Okay, so I remember the first thing that comes to mind is a wicked sounding lead that I wrote over it, but we had disagreements about it because it hit. I think the key of the song might be like F, but this lead started on went to an F sharp at some point, which is it wasn't necessarily in the same key, but it added this mystery aspect. And I remember disagreeing. You disagreed with that note. And
yeah, it basically stopped the tune, man. Like I remember
the lead, and if it didn't go to that for me, it was a bit boring. But
there was a few. I've listened to it, and I'm like, I hear it now, and I'm like, oh, I really like that. So it's just my headspace I was in at the time.
I was right even 6 years ago.
Man, I think this tune's 5 years old, but
okay.
I don't know. You be the judge. Like we might actually find some gold out of this. This might be something worth digging up.
I think this was pre-Alone Without You, but it's got, I don't know why, but it feels to me like purple. I don't think I have synesthesia, but I'm starting to really associate colors with certain songs, and it might just be because I've started color coding my Ableton project. But this song for me feels like purple.
I think it's got to do with some of your occasional Middle Eastern inspired melodies as well. Maybe you're thinking that the song is more of a frankincense kind of.
Yes, or a myrrh. I am in the bazaar. I spend most of my creative time in the bazaar of Morocco.
Anything else, or should we get into it?
It's got like a kind of moogie bass line, I think, like a bit of a walking bass line. Oh, Dan just messaged me. Pick up.
Now, before you listen to it,
Yeah.
do you think it's something that we should, based on your memories, do you think it's something that we could do some work on and like it could be a potential release?
Yes, because I remembered this tune has, there are certain songs that I think have certain places in our hearts.
And do you think it'll have a place in anyone else's heart, or it'll be purely masturbatory?
I think thinking about the outcome of any sort of creativity, how someone else is going to view it, is never a good thing.
That's wise.
If it's important to us, then I'm sure it will be important to other people.
And all the salespeople at the bazaar.
Imagine if the song, because I can't remember it being certain like Middle Eastern inspired, but
I don't think it is.
It would be sweet if it became like I don't know, used in like synced in some sort of, I don't know.
Imagine we made a song and then 4 seconds of it was used. We wouldn't get paid, but every time there was an announcement at like the Doha airport or something, you just said Bangaria, and that was our song.
That would be so, man.
That would be so funny.
So we definitely, I'll just quickly tell this. I've definitely gone through a strong stage of producing music and really, really wanting wicked, either Indian chanting or like Islamic prayer singing, and sampling that and using that in our music. And like, I just think it's so tonally interesting and I don't know, it's sick just to have in the background. Like I think of, do you remember that first song that we kind of early on?
Ibex is on that computer, Jonathan.
Ibex, that's what it was called.
It's
Ibex,
on that computer.
Oh man, it just had the sick. There was this it was like a Indian pop sample that had this. Oh, it was awesome. Maybe that can be one of the next demos. But yeah, I've had this fascination with the Middle East, like Middle Eastern melodies and Middle Eastern keys and scales are just quite interesting to me.
All right, shall we dive in? Listen to the tune?
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Firstly, what did you love? And what did you?
I love the lead. I love the stabs, the little guitar thing. It reminds me of the stuff we were writing around Burgle.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it's a bit more sample based. yeah, it reminds me of voyaging somewhere. And I love the like little square wave pluck thing at the end. I think that's a cool progression. I definitely think it's it's definitely in a demo level. I think the drums need work. I think if we updated the drums and also updated the bass, didn't make it so much about the mid-range of the Moog.
Yeah, it's also the groove of the bass is very like downstrokes, so dum 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 dum. It needs to be that boom da gong da gong gong boom boom boom.
Yeah,
boom. And
I think there's also probably a bit too much. There's gaps that are filled a bit too much. Like I would, in hindsight, maybe put the little guitar lick every 8 bars rather than every 4 bars, or I'd have less kind of going on and just concentrate on the lead and the interplay between the lead and the stabs and the bass.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something we can definitely work on. Yeah, I feel a similar way. I'm glad you like that one.
And it's interesting to go back and listen to, I listen to that snare and I go, I know exactly what snare that is. I just, again, make it a bit cracky around the 500 range and make it shorter.
Totally.
So long.
Yeah.
And probably pitch it up a little. But yeah, man, add a bit more speed in the drums. So it just was a bit drivier. But that's a vibe. I think that should be the next single.
All right, buddy. I'll chat to you soon. Love you.
Okay, buddy. I love you too. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.